everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today I'm excited to announce a Kickstarter preview for the Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon. This is going to be published by Awaken Realms and is a pre-Kickstarter prototype. We'll talk more about what that means in a second. First off, I want to mention the fact that Rolling Solo has made the jump to 4K. That's right. So if you take a look in the bottom right-hand corner right now, you'll see an icon that looks like a gear. If you click on that, you'll notice that inside the video formats, you're able to jump up to 4K now if you have a monitor that supports it. But even if you don't, like me, and you have your regular PC monitor at 1080p, you'll still notice a very, very good quality jump regardless. But you can also just stay at 1080p and there still will be a quality jump. So that's really exciting for me because you as the viewer now gets an even better experience. There's going to be less artifacting, less out of focus shots, less graininess, all that kind of stuff. Things are going to look a lot crisper. But that's not the reason we're necessarily here today, even though that's extremely exciting for me and hopefully for you as well. It's for this Kickstarter prototype that I cannot wait to show you guys. This is called the Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon. A pre-Kickstarter prototype, what that entails essentially is a kit that comes out prior to the Kickstarter. It's very much still in development, can change even up to the launch of the Kickstarter, which is later this year, and also will change during the Kickstarter and then all the way up to production, really. So you have to be aware of the fact that whatever you see during the setup and gameplay of this is subject to change throughout the entire development window. There could be changes, and that can even include the rules, of course. But I'm really excited for this one for a number of reasons. One, I personally love narrative-driven games that have tons of theme. Now, the artwork in this game is already beautiful. That's another thing that draws me in, of course, but art isn't everything. The gameplay is where it really matters. But for me to care, I really got to see a game that looks like the individuals have poured their heart and soul into something. And typically that comes through art, it comes through theme, and it comes through narrative. And if I can see that stories have been written and time's been taken to create a story and a narrative with a really heavy theme and beautiful art, it grabs my attention. At least it has me interested at the start. And so that's why the Tainted Grail originally interested me, and now it's time to find out if the gameplay is just the same and on par or better than what I'm seeing here in the Kickstarter prototype form. And the purpose of this video is going to be to show you guys how to set up the Tainted Grail, which is also very interesting in that it comes in multiple packages inside the box. You use this Start Here, Open and Play guide, which is separate from the rule book, and it basically is going to give you all the information you need to open up all the different packages within this box and explain to you essentially what those packages are, what the components are, as you set the game up, so that when you get to the point of having your game set up, you already have a great understanding of what you're looking at. This game is solo playable as well as cooperatively playable, so that's another reason why I'm focusing this on the channel and was very excited for it. The purpose of the whole Kickstarter preview, though, is to help you guys make an informed decision on whether you're going to back this or not back this. Either way, you have to do the research, and I hope this can be part of that research. Let's dig into the Tainted Grail. So again, a quick disclaimer before we go through all the packs here as we set up the game. These packs are going to change, including the contents and even sometimes what is in each of these packages. But first off, you're going to open pack number 1, which is going to contain your characters as well as your ancient Menhirs as well, which are those 2 giant statues in the back. They're hooded statues. Their origin and purpose will be revealed during your adventure, but for now, we basically only need to know that we can explore parts of the island that are in range of these Menhirs, and then each of them is placed on one of the dials, and these tokens serve 2 purposes. They count down to the moment the Menhir goes dark, and they also provide a random element of the game. These tokens are extremely, extremely cool. They look like this. So I'll be placing a number. We actually got 4 of them in the game. So there's 2 sides of them. We'll talk more about that as we go through. We also have the characters, and in front of you right now on the far right-hand side, starting with Bjor. And we also have Ailey in the middle, and we have Maggot on the far left. Bjor is a local smith known for short temper. He does his best to conceal a festering, unhealable wound in his side that he received under mysterious circumstances. Ailey is an outcast whose entire family perished. She made a modest living supplying herbs and roots to the locals. Maggot on the far left is a renegade of a druid order whose innate powers are curbed by his destructive addiction to psychoactive mixtures and mushrooms used by the druids. In this particular setup, though, we're going to take the Bjorn model, which is the individual carrying the hammer on the far right. We'll be taking one of the Menhir ancient statues and one dial and placing those in front of you. The rest of package number 1 can be placed back in the box. After opening pack number 2, you're going to find 3 character boards in this prototype. We're not using this character. We're actually not using this character. We're going to go ahead and use the last one, as we're going to play true solo with 1 character. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take the health limiter, and based on your full health limit, which you can see from the heart right here up this track, there's full spot way up here. You'll take this indicator, which is basically not only an indicator of your health, but also a limiting factor in other stats beside it as well. As you see, it kind of goes into each of those tracks and limits them. Essentially, what you have on either side of the health is you have terror right here, which can go and start at 0, of course, beginning of the game, but can go all the way up until a point where you become insane and bad things can happen. Or on the far left, you have your energy, and of course, as your health depletes, your energy limit is also going to deplete. And you'll use universal markers, which you've got a bunch of them over here, to basically denote what you're starting at. So you'll start at 0 terror, for instance. Your health's already denoted by this T marker here. And then if you take a look at the energy track, there's a full space, so you'll go ahead and just place that your energy is completely full. Let's talk about the triple track, which is basically these 3 that we just placed markers in. So again, on the far left is energy, health in the middle, and terror on the far right. Energy is your basic resource consumed by travel, combat, and exploration, and regenerated every day as long as you eat food and rest. Your health is basically your physical condition. Your energy can never be higher than your health. And you can see that by the denoting limiting factor here. As your health decreases, it's going to decrease the ability to have other stats at a higher level. Limping on with heavy wounds means you will only be able to do 1 or 2 things a day. Whenever your health reaches the red zone, you're on the brink of death, and you will have to attach the You're Dying card to your character board. Terror, which is the far right track, is your creeping madness, and once it reaches the top, you will start to go insane, making many actions risky or difficult. Additionally, if your terror is higher than your health, you panic in combat. Whenever your terror reaches the red zone, you're on the brink of madness, and you have to attach the You're Going Insane card to your character board. The cards here in front of you look like this on the back, and these are going to change because this, again, is a Kickstarter preview. What you're seeing here is the 3 You Are Going Insane cards for this prototype, as well as the You Are Dying card. These are the cards that I'll be using during the playthrough. These ones over here, you'll notice underneath of the title, it says co-op. So if you're playing with multiple players or you're controlling multiple players, you use the co-op version of these cards. I'm playing true solo, so I'm strictly playing with 1 character, so I'll only be using these cards here, as well as the You're Dying card, the single one here. So the reason that we're choosing this character to go through with the playthrough of this solo playthrough is that his strengths and combat abilities are going to help us from the mistakes we are likely to make on our very first journey in the game. He has a very, very good crafting ability, as we can see up here, and I'll zoom in on that later on. We'll talk more about it. But basically, he can provide us with decent starting equipment, which is very, very helpful in this particular journey. We also want to note the fact he has a weakness called Festering Wounds. We read this earlier. We'll talk more about how that's a negative for us later on. Right now, what we want to do next is we want to mark the starting level of all of his attributes. So his attributes are going to be all divided up along the outside of the board. We have aggression, courage, practicality, empathy, caution, and spirituality. He has 2 aggression, 1 courage, 1 practicality, and 1 caution to start. How you know that is because of the gold outline around the particular spots where he'll get a universal marker to start. And there we go. All of his attributes are now filled in. You'll notice that every single one that's filled in has a nice gold outline. So that's the way you know what your character's starting attributes will be. And of course, if you're using a different character for any other reason, you'll notice that the gold outlines are very different depending on what character you're using. So in this case, we're using him. We've got him all figured out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the save sheets. So Act 1 in this particular game has these save sheets that are very handy. So we're going to keep this nearby because we're going to need this at particular points through the playthrough, and you'll also reference it when you're playing yourself. The next thing that comes in pack number 2 and finally is the ability cards. And they look like this. They have a back like this. And we're going to take these cards and just keep them nearby. And we're going to be attaching them to the sides of the character board as the game progresses, which is over on these spaces. But for now, we don't need to worry about this during setup. So let's move into opening pack number 3. So now is a pretty good time to take a look at this crafting ability that he has. And he has the ability to spend 5 energy in order to create 1 random craftable item. And this is where he can be very useful, because at full energy, he's above 5 energy. So we're going to be able to get that 1 random craftable item from him very early on in the game. His weakness, however, is festering wounds. He's going to lose a health when he rests, when he's either hungry or exhausted. So that's where things start to bite us, is if we are not feeding him enough, or he's exhausted, he's going to start losing health while he rests. Moving right along to pack number 3, you'll open that up and find a large number of cards. Those cards are location cards, and you're going to want to find this farmhold. This farmhold is very special because this is going to be considered your home. So you're going to place your character model on this particular location. The next step is to place the ancient statue here, but we have to be careful because we need to ensure that the dial that we place underneath of this statue is actually set to 7, so have that facing out. As a reference, this particular statue is going to go dark in a week from now, so that's very, very important. We'll talk more about the losing conditions of the game when we get to the gameplay. Whenever you reveal a new location, however, we want to make sure that we familiarize ourselves with the action on its front. For example, this particular farmhold allows you to earn some reputation once per day, and you can see that right there in the middle of the card. There's also some other iconography on the card that we'll talk about right now. So right underneath the farmhold title, you can see there's 3 icons. So the one on the far left with the eye is called Vision, and it means when you spend a night in this location, it will unveil either a dream for you or a nightmare. So it depends on a couple game mechanics as to which the 2 will trigger. One is good, one is bad. We also have the middle icon, which is a settlement icon. This means that the area is inhabited. So some actions are possible in settlements and some actions aren't. So in this case, this would benefit, or this particular area would benefit from the location having a settlement. The far right just means that one of those ancient statues can exist or will exist on this particular map tile, and we've already set that up. The other set of smaller cards that comes in pack number 3 are called the event cards, and these are going to become your pre-built deck for your first adventure. So these are going to be situated in a way that if you are unfamiliar with the game, this is going to get you in the quickest amount of time. If someone's already gone ahead and changed the deck, then you can actually reference the full rulebook as to how to rebuild that in the correct order. So again, when this goes to Kickstarter and even gets produced, this first chapter may be structured in a way that is very much a tutorial, or it may not be, depending on how the game gets developed. Next, we're going to place the event deck, which is this one right here, to the left of our character board, and we're going to reveal the first event, which is Act 1, Chapter 1, Event 1, and it's called The Last Days. It will remain active during the entire day. After that, you will replace it with a new event. And some events drive the story forward, others represent various dangers or beneficial things happening around you. Next, we're going to open pack number 4, which contains 4 encounter decks. You're going to find a green, gray, purple, and blue. We're going to go through what they are all about in detail in a second here, but they contain dangers you're going to face while exploring the island. So first off, we have the green encounter deck. The green encounter deck is mostly used in the wilds and contains natural threats, such as wild animals or legendary beasts. Many of them give food. The gray deck contains dangers related to the world of man, such as brigands and people driven to insanity. Many of these encounters give items or experience. The purple deck contains supernatural threats. You will have to discover its significance yourself. The blue deck is where you'll find non-combat challenges that may happen every time you visit a settlement. They're resolved using a special diplomacy deck. Take all 4 of these encounter decks, ensure you shuffle them, and then place them within easy reach. Opening pack number 5 has a letter inside it, which is going to give us some additional background before we start our journey. You've been a good lad and a great help. I would have closed the forge long ago, if not for the strength of your arms. I feel I owe you something. When I told you to stay and keep an eye on my property, I was lying. The forge is already lost, just like all of our land. The sagas of old are true, and our island did once belong to twisted, immortal powers. It was not a place for men, but Arthur, the first of the kings, who landed on these shores with our people, has managed to subdue this realm inch by inch. He took the Grail from the Four Dwellers and used it to bring seasons and cycles known from our world to this godless place. We all thought that the Menhir in our village was raised to immortalize this. The truth is, it was also created to keep these ancient powers out, to anchor this island to the world of men. Now the Menhirs are going dark. Something has broken. The spring will not come. The animals won't breed. Lord Yavin secretly gathered 5 strongest and wisest men and women, including me. He is leading us east to help find Camelot before it's too late, and before the land starts sinking into the weirdness. If we don't return or send another message, it means we have failed, and everything is up to you. Yavin didn't want you due to your lack of experience and short temper, but I've always believed in you, lad. Save our people, or if you will not, simply try to save yourself. Now, after opening pack number 6, we have our exploration journal, and it contains many numbered story paragraph verses of your saga and decisions tied to each of the locations. When you explore a location, some choices will ask you to check for consequences in specific verses of this location's journal. Your actions often have far-reaching consequences, changing the world around you as you play. Now we're going to finally open pack number 7, the final pack for the Quick Start Guide. This is going to contain your combat cards and your diplomacy cards. You'll see those decks right here. You're going to shuffle both of those together, but first, before you do the combat ones, you're going to want to go through and find all of the combat cards that have a title as well as an experience cost in the middle. You want to take those out because those need to be earned and are not part of your basic combat card deck from the get-go. Then just place those decks within easy reach. The item deck will be used in this particular playthrough for the prototype. The secrets deck will not be. Now that we've concluded all the pack opening and components, we're going to move into setting up the map, which means we're going to flush out the map around our Menhir here, which is our ancient statue. So basically, we're going to take a look at the different numerical values around this particular farm hold location, which is our home, and we're going to be placing all the cards around it. So the first one here on the right is the Charred Conclave. That's going to be to the east of us. And then to the west of us, we have the Warrior Flare, which we'll place just like this. Now let's take a look at what's south and north of us. To the south of our farmhold, we have the Forlorn Sword. So we'll place that just like this. And to the north of us, we have the Hunter's Grove, where it looks like we can gather some food. So we've now concluded the setup of the initial map. It's also important to note that you can only attach locations that are adjacent either directly or diagonally to a land with an active statue. Enabling these ancient monuments is the key to your exploration in the game. And during the game, whenever you travel to a new location, you immediately attach its surrounding locations by matching its numbered keys. So, at the end of the day, until you find a way to enable another ancient statue, your map is limited to the farmhold and the 4 revealed, plus the 4 unrevealed locations around it. Whenever the location you're in has no number key on one of the edges, it means this road is blocked. So a good example is like the edge of an island, for instance. You cannot travel over this edge, and you must find a different route to attach and reach locations on the other sides. Keep in mind, many locations have a special action that happens automatically as soon as you enter them. For example, the Charred Conclave, which is right here, to the right of your home, it is marked with a white lightning symbol, and we'll talk more about that when we get into the gameplay. This particular reference card here to the right, called the Action card, is very useful. It shows travel, explore, location actions, and activating one of the statues, all very important actions, and this is a great reference card to keep in front of you. Another really handy tool to have in front of you is this help card or reference card that specifies all the different phases in the game, like the first phase, which is a new day begins, the second, during the day, and the end of day. This card is very, very helpful and will show you all the different things that can be very useful to you, as well as on the back of this card showing you all of the icons to help you become more familiar with all the different location cards, as well as your player board and any cards that may come up throughout gameplay. And that's going to do it, guys. That concludes the solo setup for Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon. We followed the start here Open and Playbook, which did a fantastic job of getting the game to the table really quickly for a solo play. So again, I'm using one character in this particular playthrough. I'm really excited for this one, and I hope you guys are as well. If there is enough interest after this first playthrough going just true solo with one character, then I'll look into potentially adding in some of the decks that we removed from this quick start play here, like the Seeker's deck, for instance, and some other things. Or maybe we'll try different characters or multiple characters, because we can play this cooperatively and I can handle 2 characters at once, for instance. So if there is enough interest and individuals are enjoying the playthrough, I will definitely look into it. Let me know in the comments below at the very end of the playthrough whether you'd like to see more of the Tainted Grail. I'm very, very excited. The next video will jump into the very first steps of the playthrough. Thank you all for your support, and as always, keep on rolling solo.